Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be starting a new project series over the next few videos where we're going to be redoing the siding of the south wall of my house. We'd taken a little bit of a hiatus from our houseworking projects just to kind of wrap up the summer with a few vacations and spending time with the family. But now that we're back into the fall, we're going to start getting some of these final projects done on the remodel of the house. While the weather is real nice, it's cooled down a lot since August. And, you know, I think we've still got about a month or month and a half to go before it starts getting chilly and the days are getting too short. So anyways, the scope of this project is that we're going to be taking off all the old vinyl siding. And then we'll be putting in furring strips and extending the new lap siding that you'd seen on the other series of the home where we did the front side of the house. And we're going to do some fur strips and then lap siding all the way down to about grade to give a long, like a taller appearance to the overall house. At the same time, we'll be replacing 3 separate windows, one within our brick or cement foundation, then 2 up in the wall. And then we'll be putting in the lap siding, the trim, and kind of dressing up this side of the house. Now, my goal is to get this all done before it gets too cool outside, cool and wet, so that it's all dried in and ready to go. I don't necessarily need to get the paint done this year. You get about 6 months on this lap siding before you need to get it painted. So I think I'll be all right. It's already primed. That would be, you know, an extra goal if possible to get it painted. We'll just have to see how long this takes. But then I'm kind of anticipating doing the drywall and interior trim over the winter and the cooler months when I'll probably be doing most of my work inside anyways. So anyways, that's the goal. We're going to kick this series off and let's get to it. So we're over here. This is the finished side of the house on this side. And the intent is that when we bring the lap siding around to the south wall, we're going to have a continuous set of lap kind of appearance that'll go up the wall as it goes. So what I'm going to do, I already drew a little mark here, but essentially I'm using my speed square, lining up what's flush with this bottom run here, bringing a line here so that I can transcribe that with the level and bring it across the wall a little bit. Now I'm using the 7 1/4 inch wide lap siding. It's got 1 1/4 inch overhang, which gives you a 6 inch reveal. And so what I'm going to do is use this line that I'm transcribing as my origin that I can measure down in 6 inch increments to figure out where the bottom is going to be for a full sheet. So I don't want to have to rip the width of a sheet at all. When I'm doing this, to keep it consistent with what I did on the north side and to follow the grade slightly, I'm going to bring it down to about a foot or so above grass or above this dirt. And then I'm going to kind of continue that run out for a while, and I'm going to have to do some jogs here and there. I don't want it to look completely like pixelated. I'm going to do probably only 2 or 3 jogs, just enough to keep it kind of closely following the grade. And again, the intent of doing all this and not just having it right here is that I want to extend the overall height or the appearance of the height of the house on this side. So I've got my tick mark here. I'm going to use a level, just my shorty, so that I can make a line on this wall. The reason I'm going to use my level and not my speed square is I actually know that this trim butts out slightly, and that was due to some of the foundation work behind here and how it wasn't quite consistent with my underlayment on this north wall. And so instead of using the speed square, I'm just going to use, you know, my torpedo level just to bring that line around. I have my gutter detached so that I can flex it around a little bit. I mean, it's still able to bring water down during a rainstorm, but it's not as secure as it needs to be. So I know it's a little difficult to see, especially with this Tamlin wrap, the white and black, but I have a little pencil line here from my torpedo level. What I'm going to use is this as a reference. This is the bottom edge of the last piece, or the bottommost piece of lap siding on the east side of the house. And this is what's going to be my origin for measuring down and then moving upwards the wall. So with my lap siding having a 6 inch reveal, I'm going to measure to the bottom of the lap piece. I'm going to burn 10 inches here just so I can make sure that I'm right on the line. So down to grade is about 38 inches. You know, you're burning 10 and I'm measuring at 4 feet here. So I'm actually at 38 inches. If I take off a foot, It'll put me at about the 36 or 26 inches down. And what I want to do is I want to have an even 6-inch piece, and I actually would like to bring it up a little higher than that, just because I've got the dirt moving up and around the side of the house, kind of like this in a curve as it's going uphill. And I don't want dirt or like grass buildup or something to kind of start to come close to the bottom of that lap piece. So what I think I'm going to do, let's keep it up a little bit higher even. So it's first piece, second piece, third piece. We can go a little further. Maybe we'll go to 34. No, I think I'll keep it at this one. So I'm going to bring it down 3 lap pieces. I'm going to use my Sharpie on the cement here. So this is going to be my bottom of this first elevation. So the process that I used on the north side of the wall that worked out very well for me is obviously I have a different depth to the wall, either to this concrete or up to the original redwood siding. I'm going to leave this tin cap in just to keep bugs and critters and things from still getting up into the wall this way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out some pressure treated fir strips that'll bring the depth out to be flush with this. We're going to attach those with just a few tap cons into the concrete, enough to build it out and support the lap siding that's going to be installed over top of it. And when that's all done, it'll give a very seamless appearance from the bottom of the wall all the way up. And again, the whole reason we're doing this, it's an aesthetic thing, right? We're trying to make the house appear taller for just it being a ranch. We really like the look of it on the other sections of the house, and so we're going to continue doing that here. So what I'm going to do here is kind of demonstrate what I'm doing to get my lap siding planned out across this wall. I've got my 6-foot level. I've actually marked it out with 6-inch increments. A little bit arbitrary. It doesn't really matter where you start or finish, just so long as you can keep a good eye on them. What I'm going to do is set up one of these increments with that line that I traced around the corner of the house. And that'll give me my reference to origin, and I can plot down the 6 inches from there. I've got my laser level set up, and where this is going to beep is actually where I've already got it set to reference this as the first of the continuous row, and then everything below it is going to be ones that are going to be populated on the cement foundation section. So just kind of a quick demonstration how this is going to work. If I'm holding up my line here, I already know that the pencil line's about here on the tin, so I don't have to be searching all over the wall. I can bring it to approximately the right place and then just let the laser level figure out the rest. I can keep the level plumb because of the bubbles. It'll kind of help me make sure that the measurement's consistent around the way. So there we go. So that's my first point there. Now 6 inches is, obviously I could just be measuring this up and down. That'd be just as easy to pull from this dimension that I just placed. But since I already have the tick marks on here, it's just as easy for me to just go in and pencil them in where they need to be. At this point, this is still a little bit more like a rough layout technique, because when I actually go to place boards in here, I'm going to be putting a level on top to make sure that I'm not running up or down the hill too much. But what it does show is, like, when I come in here, I've already got, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm at 6 boards here in about a distance of 6 feet, whereas on that side I had 3 boards or 3 planks wide. So at this height, I'm still, let's see, I'm about 20 inches above grade, which is more than enough. I think it's recommended only a foot is necessary. But it gives me a good idea. If I do 3 full runs, I might start about another couple runs here. And some of that will depend on the layout of the wall. I'm going to go across this wall before I do my Tamlin wrap over top of it. And I'm going to kind of transcribe where the stud positions are so that I can get a sense for where my lap is going to break in different sections across the wall. As with what was done on the east side of the house, the lap boards come in at, I think, at 12 feet wide. My house on this portion is 28 feet, so I'm going to have to use a couple segments anyways. And I want to be a little bit strategic with where I cut them so that I have a random appearance kind of pattern. I don't want to have the stair-stepped look that sometimes you get with like a vinyl siding or something. And instead, I'd like it to have cuts at semi-random positions, but in a way that I can repeat it up and down the wall without a whole lot of waste. So anyways, that's the plan. Once we get all these laid out and such, we're going to get some plywood to figure out, or to put in some of the furring strips at the positions that align with where the studs are, so that I have a continuous section up and down this portion of the wall. And the way I'm going to figure out how big that plywood or how thick that plywood needs to be is I can bump my level right on top of it. Right now I've got the laser set on it, so I can't do it at the moment. I'll bump my laser or my level on it kind of like this, make sure I'm plumb and not pushed out too far, and then just measure the depth of the material. So just to quick summarize some of what I've been doing, is that we had measured across, found what was our origin point from the far side of the wall, transcribed that around, and then using the laser level, brought it along and kind of used this tin flashing to make a clear, legible, horizontal tick mark that I could measure down from. I'm now in the southwest corner of the house, and this is where the grade's at its lowest point. So I've measured from that tick mark down in 6-inch increments to the point where it's at least 12 inches above grade. So here I came to 66 inches. That's about to the bottom of this pressure treated plywood that I had on there from previously. I'll end up trimming that slightly to match where the 66 inches is. But then I'm going to run 66 inches for about 3 feet to where it aligns with the stud that I marked from the blue section of the wall. And then from there it jogs up 2 boards. So I'm at 12 inches up from there. And it starts to run across here to the other side of my heat pump unit here. On this side, so I was at 66 inches way down on this corner. Here, where I'm 2 boards up, I'm at 54 inches down. Then I jog up 3 feet because the hill's starting to get a little bit more greater incline than what it is down here. And I come up three boards, so 18 inches. And then I'm jogging across here. And then I come to about where I had started at. I had the 6-foot section here. Brought that to where it makes sense with the studs. And then I've got 6 boards on the left side. I'm going to jog up 3 more to the remaining 3. And that'll get me right to where I wanted to be here. So I'm at 3, 6, 8, and then 9, and then 11. here we are. We've worked our way up from the southwest corner, kind of building up this like lattice-like framework that's giving us the proper depth to match this top original section of the wall. It's a little tedious. I'm not using a whole lot of screws, but they have to be Tapconned into the concrete to hold them in place. And I don't really need many screws because when I go and put the lap siding on top of that, it's actually going to have more screws going into this. This is primarily just to keep it spaced correctly. When I keep on doing those, I keep on going back to my kind of origin line that I had measured the other day. I put that in with some of the permanent marker just so I could kind of record it easier. But what I'm going to do is keep on pulling down full 6-inch increments to find out where my bottom edge is. And that's where I'm building this frame. On the lower portion, I'm only using a 2-inch wide strip, and that's because this is going to have an 1.25 inch wide kind of kick out piece, and that's to give the right angle to the bottom of my lap. On the sides as it's going up, these vertical pieces are 3 inches wide. I'm doing that so that I can break the stud where it is up on the rest of the wall so that my seams and my butt joints of the different lap pieces can all line up as they're going up the wall. I gave myself 3 inches just because I want to have a little bit of overlap so that I can still hit it with my Tapcons through the edges of the planks. So I'm on my last section here. This is going to be just three planks deep. So I've got my first bottom edge, which lines up with the front side of the house, and I have my first drops down, my second, and then this is my third. So this is going to be the bottom edge of the third pieces. And that's going to run into where I finish off my trim on that corner of the home. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory. One thing that I am kind of doing that I hadn't recorded previously, but I've done this on the other sections of the home, is that I do put a little bit of caulking, or in my case, I'm going to use structural adhesive just because I have it on hand. But I'm putting that along this bottom edge and kind of just wetting it across the bottom. And that's to fill in any of these holes or kind of the divots in the concrete and provide a bit of a sealing barrier between this bottom edge so that I don't get like bugs and things crawling up into these big cavities, because I can just picture that being the case, especially based on what I'd seen with the vinyl siding. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to be cutting my bottom edge, the 2-inch strip. I'm going to run that out to the corner where it's going to meet my corner trim, and then I'll fill that in with the vertical plank pieces. Well, now that we've got this grid set up to space the siding, the next thing is actually going to be to install our kick-out, our kind of bottom edge kick-out pieces. Now, you had seen me do this on the other side of the home where we were installing it on that new OSB. Here we're just going to be putting it onto our pressure-treated plywood. And it's going to be really important to get this not so much lined up with this edge, but to make sure that we're taking the right measurement and bringing it down, because that'll define the bottom edge of the lap pieces. When I'm coming to something like this where it jogs over, it's okay to run it long because it's just going to support that bottom edge of the piece that's going to run over where your trim is, your corner trim. So I'm just using, this is just leftover cedar that I had from doing some of the window trim. I've primed it. It doesn't need to be real well coated because it should be pretty well protected from the environment. Once I have the lap over top of it, I'm going to seal the bottom edge with caulking, similar to what I did on the bottom of this pressure treated plywood. And it should be pretty impervious to the water and everything. So the way I'm going to attach this is I've got my my Milwaukee nailer here. I've just got some short 1-inch galvanized nails. These are the 16 gauge. And I'm just going to peg that thing in, you know, a lot of different places. It's not a structural member by any means, so I'm not worried about it falling out or anything. It's only there to give the right kick out for the first lap that I'm going to place on there. So let me get that going. Like I said, I'm going to just hang them out long. I'm going to just cut them after I get it nailed in. But as I mentioned before, it's going to be pretty important to make sure that we've got the height set right from that first origin line that we had drawn to make sure that it lines up with the bottom edge of our finished pieces. Now where I have my corner coming in, I've set it up so that I have 3 inches of coverage by the corner, which leaves me another 2 for the butt end of my lap piece coming in. So I'm just going to draw a line 3 inches back, and then that can be my starting point for my kick out strip here. Well, that's probably enough for this video. As you had seen a few days ago when it was back in the pleasant 70 degrees, we were redoing or taking off the old siding, the old vinyl siding that was on the upper section of the wall. And then these past couple days, it's actually been up in the 90s. I was having problems with my phone overheating and actually losing some of the video content, so hopefully not too much of that is lost in this next video. Nevertheless, it got hot and we put up this grid system. I staggered the thickness of the plywood that I was putting up. This side is closer to 5/8. We have 5/8, and then moving on to 1/2 inch thick pieces on that side. That's just to align with how much this old sheathing is overhanging the concrete to build it up and make sure it's flush from left to right. Then the last portion of this was that we put in our kick out piece here, and that's just to give the lap the right kick out at the bottom so that it matches the kick out of the remaining pieces on their exposure. When we get into the next video, we'll be taking out this window. It's a window that's inset into the concrete form. We'll be taking that out and putting in a new one that brings it out more to this level so it aligns with the others. Following that, then we'll be replacing the 2 windows further up the wall, and then we'll be building some trim prior to actually doing the sheathing. I'm hoping this project goes pretty quick. Like with everything, I'm always optimistic with these things, so it may take a little bit longer than I'm anticipating, but you know, that's just par for the course. Anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know if you had any thoughts or anything that caught your eye. Drop it in the comments. And please, if you guys are willing to, give us a thumbs up. That always helps with kind of the promotion of the video in the Google and YouTube kind of algorithm. Anyways, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.